Welcome back, everybody. It is Saturday, August 15th, 2026, and we left off on Genesis 47, verse 1. So Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, "My father and my brothers, with their flocks and herds and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan. They are now in the land of Goshen." And from among his brothers he took 5 men and presented them to Pharaoh. "Your servants are shepherds, as our fathers were," they said to Pharaoh. "We have come to sojourn in the land, for there is no pasture for your servants. For there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. And now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Your fathers and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them settle in the land of Goshen, and if you know any able men among them, put them in charge of my livestock." Then Joseph brought in Jacob his father and stood him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, "How many are the days of the years of your life?" And Jacob said to Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my sojourning are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their sojourning." And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from the presence of Pharaoh. Then Joseph settled his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with food according to the number of their dependents. Now, I thought, before we continue on, what verse was that? Verse 13. I thought that Joseph told his brothers to tell Pharaoh that they were caretakers of livestock, but not shepherds. And then they tell him that here, because shepherds are an abomination to Egyptians. So let's mark this. I'm going to ask about that. I'm almost positive. So I think it was at the end of last chapter, Genesis 46. Yeah, okay, very last verse. It says, whoops, why did I do that? It says, "You shall say, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth until even until now, both we and our fathers, in order that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians." Weird. Okay, so an oversight perhaps. Genesis 46, 34. In Genesis 46:34, Joseph instructs his brothers to tell Pharaoh that they are keepers of livestock and not shepherds, because shepherds are an abomination to the Egyptians. Then in the very next chapter, they say they are shepherds, and there doesn't seem to be any backlash. How do theologians explain this? The apparent contradiction mostly disappears once you look closely at what Joseph actually tells them to say. Okay. He doesn't tell them to deny being shepherds. In Genesis 46:33-34, Joseph anticipates Pharaoh asking, "What is your occupation?" He tells his brothers to answer, "Your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth even until now, both we and our fathers." Then Genesis 47:3 records what they actually say. "Your servants are shepherds, as our fathers were." Okay. Okay, I don't see where I'm overlooking something. Those statements overlap substantially. The interesting question is why Joseph recommends the broader description keepers of livestock, even when he knows Egyptians detest shepherds. Joseph's objective was probably separation, not concealment. At first, that sounds like don't tell them you are shepherds, but Joseph's logic is arguably the opposite. Make their pastoral occupation clear so Pharaoh will put them somewhere separate from the Egyptian population. Goshen was suitable for their animals, and Egyptian aversion to shepherds gave Pharaoh an additional reason to let them settle there as a distinct community. Many commentators therefore understand the abomination not as a danger Joseph is trying to hide, but as something he is strategically using to secure Israel's geographical separation. That becomes especially significant in the larger Genesis story. Israel arrives in Egypt as a clan of about 70 people, but they need to remain sufficiently distinct to become a nation rather than simply assimilating into Egypt. Okay, so the sequence is roughly tell Pharaoh you are livestock people, but they don't do that. They just say that they're shepherds, so that's why I'm kind of missing it. Maybe I'm missing something still. Okay, so the sequence is roughly tell Pharaoh you are livestock people. Egyptians don't associate closely with shepherds. Therefore, you'll be allowed to live separately in Goshen. Keepers of livestock isn't a euphemism, meaning not shepherds. Oh, okay. So I guess he's saying... Oh, okay. I see what I'm missing. So, okay. So keepers of livestock and shepherds are interchangeable. So, which makes sense. So keepers of livestock... I don't know why I'm typing this. So keepers of livestock and shepherd are interchangeable then, in this case. Okay. Keeper of livestock, someone who raises, tends domestic animals. Shepherd, specifically someone who tends flocks. Okay, all right. I was way over analyzing, but I see what... Okay, so I was reading it wrong. So you shall say, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth, even until now, both we and our fathers, in order that you may dwell... Okay, so he's saying, do tell them. I thought he was saying, don't tell them. But he's saying, do tell them that you're shepherds, aka keepers of livestock. And because shepherds are an abomination, he'll set you apart from Gen Pop. He's not going to put you with everybody else. Okay. All right. That was all a great big hullabaloo. All right, verse 13. Now there was no food in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, in exchange for the grain that they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? For our money is gone. And Joseph answered, give your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock, if your money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the herds, and the donkeys. He supplied them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year was ended, they came to him the following year and said to him, we will not hide from my lord that our money is all spent. The herds of livestock are my lord's. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we with our land will be servants to Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land may not be desolate. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For all the Egyptians sold their fields, because the famine was severe on them. The land became Pharaoh's, And for the people, he made servants of them from one end of Egypt to the other. Interesting. Interesting. Only the land of the priest he did not buy, for the priest had a fixed allowance from Pharaoh and lived on the allowance that Pharaoh gave them. Therefore, they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, Behold, I have this day bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And at the harvest you shall give a fifth to Pharaoh, and your fifths shall be your own, and 4/5 shall be your own, as seed for the field, and as food for yourselves and your households, and as food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. May it please my Lord, we will be servants to Pharaoh. So Joseph made it a statute concerning the land of Egypt, and it stands to this day that Pharaoh should have the fifth. The land of the priest alone did not become Pharaoh's. Thus Israel... Well, hold on a sec. What priest are they referring to? What kind of priest are they referring to here? Are these Jewish priests or Egyptian priests? And who are they priests to? I assume these are to the whatever Egyptian gods like Ra, and that's the only one I know really. They are Egyptian priests, not Jewish or Israelite priests. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. Let's see. Verse 27. Thus Israel settled in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions in it, and were fruitful and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the days of Jacob, the years of his life, were 147 years. And when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, If now I have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh, and promise to deal kindly and truly with me. Do not bury me in Egypt, but let me die with my fathers. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. He answered, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed himself upon the head of his bed. After this, Joseph was told, Behold, your father is ill. So he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it was told to Jacob, Your son Joseph has come to you. Then Israel summoned his strength. Wait, I wonder why they... Okay, so hold on. Why in the Bible does it often waffle between Jacob's old name and his new name, meaning Jacob and Israel? And I've seen it done with other characters as well. Because, I mean, even here in the same verse, it does this. Because Jacob is or used to be Israel. God gave him a new name. But it still refers to him as Jacob sometimes. But why? Genesis 48:2 is actually a particularly striking example because the narrator switches names within the same verse. Exactly. It says, And it was told to Jacob, Your son Joseph has come to you. Then Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. That is not because the biblical writer forgot which name he was using. In Jacob's case, especially, the 2 names continue to carry different associations, and Genesis seems at times to exploit that deliberately. So when God renames Abram to Abraham, the old name essentially disappears. But when Jacob is renamed Israel, God says, Your name is Jacob. Your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. Okay, yet Genesis immediately continues using both. Israel isn't functioning quite like a modern legal name change where Jacob becomes an incorrect name. Jacob remains Jacob, while Israel becomes an additional covenantal identity. Okay. So not really an alias, more like just another name, really. I think alias is too weak to describe that. All right, where was I? I was here. Verse 3. And Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, Behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make of you a company of peoples, and will give you this land to your offspring after you for an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, as Reuben and Simeon are. And the children that you fathered after them shall be yours. They shall be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. As for me, when I came from Paddan, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was still some distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, he said, Who are these? Joseph said to his father, These are my sons, whom God has given me here. And he said, Bring them to me, please, that I may bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. So Joseph brought them near, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face, and behold, God has let me see your offspring also. Then Joseph removed them from his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, The God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life, long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the boys. And in them let my name be carried on, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into the multitude in the midst of the earth. This is interesting. Okay, so who is this angel that Jacob is referring to? And when, I should ask, when did it happen? I don't remember that. This is a fascinating passage because Jacob seems to speak of God and the angel almost interchangeably. There are 2 major interpretations, but in Christian theology, there is a strong case that Jacob is referring to the angel of the Lord, i.e., a Christophany, a pre-incarnate Jesus Christ, is what I believe the angel of the Lord is. The divine messenger who had appeared to him throughout his life, whom many Christians understand as a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ. So look at the full sentence. Genesis 48:15 through 16 forms one continuous blessing. The God, so he's referring to the when he had that wrestling match before he saw Esau, his brother, which we read, I think that was like 2 days ago. Okay. Okay, fair enough. All right, so then verse 17. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, it displeased him, and he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, Not this way, my father, since this one is the firstborn, put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying, By you Israel will pronounce blessing. By you Israel will pronounce blessings, saying, God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, Behold, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you again to the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you, rather than to your brothers, one mountain slope that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow. So this is pretty interesting too, because Joseph, where is it? This displeased him because his dad didn't bless the elder, which I suppose, I mean, obviously that was tradition, to give the older the blessing. But he also was the youngest, or sorry, not the youngest. Benjamin was the youngest, but he was younger than many of his brothers and was put ahead of them. And so it's interesting that upset him. Why do we think that this upset Joseph if he himself was also a younger brother who was put ahead of older brothers? One might think that he would have been understanding of this particular scenario, even amongst his own sons. Joseph's own history makes his reaction especially interesting. The text does not explicitly tell us Joseph's inner motive, so we should distinguish what Genesis says from what we infer, but the surrounding narrative gives several good reasons why Joseph could be displeased, even though he himself had been the younger brother whom God elevated. Joseph probably thought Jacob had simply made a mistake. That's true. Sometimes I take the displeased. I mean, maybe sometimes some of the translation gets, like the modern wording, it sounds more harsh than it actually was. Let's see. Number 2, Joseph's own experience may actually explain why he didn't want this. There's an irony here that I think is easy to miss. Joseph knew firsthand what could happen when one son was visibly elevated over his brothers. That's actually a great point. So maybe that's why he didn't want him to have his sons to have that hardship, because obviously it caused hardship. Even though it all worked out, but that caused major hardship for him and his brothers in their childhood. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Well, how about that? Okay, I received that. Verse 18, and Joseph said to, oh no, sorry, I read this. Okay, so we finished Genesis 48 on to Genesis 49, verse 1. Then Jacob called his sons and said, Gather yourselves together that I may tell you what shall happen to you in days to come. Assemble and listen, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the firstfruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Wait, what? Oh, that's right. I think Reuben slept with one of his father's concubines, I think. What is he saying here? Is this because Reuben slept with one of his concubines? I think that's why I think that was him. Okay, yeah, it was him. Yes, Jacob is referring specifically to Reuben sleeping with Bilhah, Jacob's concubine. And he is explaining why Reuben, despite being the firstborn, will lose the special preeminence normally associated with that position. The incident happened much earlier in Genesis, way back in 35. Okay, yeah, so that was maybe 3 or 4 days ago reading. It says, while Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Bilhah was Rachel's servant and became Jacob's concubine / wife. She was also the mother of Dan and Naphtali. What does Jacob mean in Genesis 49? Jacob is near death in Genesis 49 and is pronouncing blessings, or in some cases, judgments and prophetic declarations over his sons. But he begins by acknowledging everything Reuben should have possessed as the firstborn. In the ancient family structure, the firstborn son normally held a position of exceptional honor, authority, and inheritance. So when Jacob calls him preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power, he is describing the status that naturally belonged to Reuben. Then comes the reversal, unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence. The idea is that Reuben lacked the steadiness and the self-control necessary for that position. His sexual act with Bilhah becomes the decisive example. Okay, and then he describes it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's a whole lot. All right, so let's go back. Okay, but that's what he's saying. So that was the issue. Verse 5, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. Let my soul come not into their counsel. O my glory, be not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. Wait, what? For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. So we know what he's referring to when he says they killed men, because those, I forget who they were, those people, basically that guy sexually assaulted their sister, and these two snuck into that town and killed them for it. So that's what he's describing with the violence. But what is the reference to the oxen? What does that mean? I understand why he calls them violent, because these two were the ones that killed the man that sexually assaulted their sister. But what is the reference to the oxen? Shechem, that's what it was. Levi's massacre at Shechem after their sister Dinah was violated. The line about the oxen, though, is easy to miss because Genesis 34 doesn't explicitly narrate the hamstringing oxen. In Genesis 49:6, Jacob says, For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. So what does hamstrung oxen mean? To hamstring an animal meant cutting the tendons at the back of its legs, effectively crippling it. Oh, man. In Hebrew, the phrase is words I can't pronounce. Ikeru sor, literally something like they hamstrung an ox. So Jacob appears to be saying that Simeon and Levi's violence at Shechem extended beyond killing the men. They also deliberately maimed livestock. Oh, I see. Okay. That detail is not mentioned in the narrative of Genesis 34. Genesis 34:27-29 instead says Jacob's sons plundered Shechem, taking the flocks, herds, donkeys, possessions, women, and children. Genesis 49 therefore seems to preserve an additional detail about the incident that the earlier narrative did not spell out. So, why would they cripple oxen? They weren't killing the oxen for food. Hamstringing is destructive rather than useful. An ox was an enormously valuable working animal, essentially agricultural equipment, transportation, and wealth rolled into one. So Jacob's accusation seemed designed to emphasize the excessiveness and destructiveness of their rage. Yeah, there's some not stable, way over the top. Okay, so verse 7. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies, and your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion and as a lioness. Who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. Binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He has washed his garments in wine, and his vesture in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, crunching between the sheepfolds. He saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, so he bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant at forced labor. What does that mean? I guess that just means he'll be relegated to a life of labor. He's good at working with his hands. Describe what this means. This passage is part of Jacob's final blessing over his sons. The imagery is a little strange to modern ears, but it becomes clearer piece by piece. So he says, Issachar is a strong donkey. This is not necessarily an insult. In the ancient world, a donkey was an important work animal, valued for its strength, endurance, and ability to carry heavy loads. So Jacob is portraying Issachar as strong, sturdy, and capable of bearing burdens. The emphasis is less, okay, I got it, crouching between the sheepfolds. The Hebrew here is somewhat difficult, and translations differ, sheepfolds, saddlebags, campfires, etc., but the basic picture is of a strong animal settled down in a comfortable place rather than roaming or fighting. That connects directly with the next sentence. He saw that a resting place was good and that the land was pleasant. So Issachar sees good land and comfortable rest and values them. Historically, the tribe of Issachar eventually received fertile territory in the Jezreel Valley and surrounding areas, excellent agricultural land. So the picture is something like, this is good country, I can settle here, the land is productive, and life can be comfortable. But then comes the cost. He says, so he bowed his shoulder to bear. Picture a donkey lowering its shoulders so that a heavy load can be placed on its back. Issachar is strong enough to work, and because he wants to remain in this pleasant land, he accepts the burden required to keep it. I see. So he'll be comfortable and he'll have enough, but he'll work very hard for all of his days. Then Jacob makes the metaphor explicit and become a servant at forced labor. This is the darker side of the prophecy. Issachar's desire for peace, rest, and fertile land would apparently result in submission. Rather than resisting domination, the tribe would be willing to bear heavy labor or tribute in exchange for remaining in its desirable territory. Oh, I see. So there's an interesting tension in the prophecy. Issachar has great strength, but strength does not automatically produce freedom. His love of comfortable, productive land leads him to accept burdens that someone with his strength might otherwise resist. Okay, that makes the passage potentially cautionary. Comfort can become expensive when preserving comfort becomes more important than preserving freedom. Well, isn't that the truth? I believe in modern terms, that's what we would call, or at least you could relate that to the golden handcuffs. Like, when you earn a good salary, and so you never want to leave because you get all these benefits. You're like, why would I leave? But maybe you're not happy, but you're doing it for the money, so on and so forth. That could be a modern day comparison. All right, anyway, let's go back. Verse 16, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent in the way, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider falls backwards. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Raiders shall raid Gad, but he shall raid at their heels. Asher's food shall be rich, and he shall yield royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe let loose that bears beautiful fawns. Joseph is a fruitful bow by a spring. His branches run over the wall. The archers bitterly attacked him, shot at him, and harassed him severely, yet his bow remained unmoved. His arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. By the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that crouches beneath, blessings of the breast of the womb. The blessings of your father are mighty beyond the blessings of my parents, up to the bounties of the everlasting hills. May they be on the head of Joseph, and on the brow of him who was set apart from his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, and at evening dividing the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. This is what their father said to them as he blessed them, blessing each with the blessing suitable to him. Then he commanded them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field at Machpelah, to the east of Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite to possess as a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it were bought from the Hittites. When Jacob finished commanding his sons, he drew up his feet into the bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. Fluck X Battery 13 says, "Thank you for being here and doing this even if no one watches. Thank you for spreading the gospel and being a disciple. Thank you for reminding us all of the good word." Thank you, brother or sister. I'm not sure, but either way, I appreciate that very much. And I'm happy to do it. Okay, Genesis 50, verse 1. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for it, for that is how many are required for embalming. And the Egyptians wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, I am about to die. In my womb that I hewed out for myself in the land of Canaan, there shall you bury me. Now therefore let me please go up and bury my father, then I will return." And Pharaoh answered, "Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear." So Joseph went up to bury his father. With him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, as well as all the household of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's household. Only their children, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen. It was a very great company. When they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, they lamented there with a very great and grievous lamentation, and he made a mourning for his father 7 days. When the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning on the threshing floor of Atad, they said, "This is a grievous mourning by the Egyptians." Therefore the place was named Abel Mizraim. It is beyond the Jordan. Thus his sons did for him as he had commanded them. For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field at Machpelah, to the east of Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite to possess as a burying place. After he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone up with him to bury his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him." So they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, 'Please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father.'" Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for I." Sorry. But Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." It's a banger. I got to save that one. "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So this is really interesting because this I suppose you could call it a bad habit. I think it, or at least it's starting to feel like a bad habit of mine where maybe I do too much pearl clutching, but I just think it's interesting that there's points in Genesis where we come across deception and there doesn't seem to be any immediate backlash or even in some cases any negative consequence at all. But I always think it's interesting just to point it out in case I'm missing a part of the message or something of that sort. But anyway, so like right here, when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him." So they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave this command before he died," which he didn't. They made that up. But anyway, let's ask about that. Let's see. What do the theologians say about different points in Genesis and perhaps even across the entire Bible where there are instances like this where there is clear deception that's being perpetrated, but there doesn't seem to be any immediate consequence or even any consequence at all? What are we to glean from that, if anything? Obviously, that doesn't mean like lying's okay or whatever, but if there's a larger message there, it's something that I want to capture. Uh, this is a real and important feature of biblical narrative, especially Genesis. Scripture will sometimes report deception without immediately inserting a moral verdict or narrating a punishment. That can feel strange because we expect something like they lied, therefore God punished them. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. But biblical narrative often works more subtly than that. And Genesis 50:15 through 17 is an especially interesting example because interpreters have disagreed for centuries about whether the brothers are actually lying. Well, I mean, it certainly, at least in this way that it's translated, it certainly seems like they are. Because first they reason that now that Jacob is dead, now that he's dead, Joseph might feel a certain way about what they did to him. Therefore, let's send this message. So it seems like deception. First, are Joseph's brothers definitely lying? Not quite definitely, according to ChatGPT, but the suspicion is strong. Genesis never records Jacob giving this command. In fact, Genesis 48 through 49 gives us a lengthy account of Jacob's final words to his sons, which we just read. And this instruction is conspicuously absent. For that reason, many Jewish interpreters understood the brothers to have invented the message. Yeah, and I think really that's all there's to say about it. I mean, if the Bible doesn't address it directly, we don't need to dig that much further into it, but I just thought it was interesting to point those instances out. All right, let's finish this. Let's see. Okay, verse 22. So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's house. Joseph lived 110 years, and Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, his oldest, were counted as Joseph's own. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. So that's also interesting. So they didn't wait. Maybe that happens later. We'll just mark that. He says, carry up my bones from here. But when he died, they just put him in a coffin in Egypt. That's interesting. Okay. All right, but that's the end of Genesis. So now we are on to Exodus 1. So we'll start that tomorrow. We'll pick that up tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to drop a sub, share it with a friend. God bless you guys, and good night.